I can certainly call the meeting to order, and all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you all very much. I did have a board presentation saved from a couple of people that could not be here. I believe they got the details, so if there's someone waiting to be called in, maybe we could call them in. It should be, yeah, it should be, I see Josephine DeMora and Carrie Calvin. Do you see any of those people?
They're both coming in.
Okay, good, thank you.
Hi, Josephine, I think you have to unmute. Can't get my, I don't know if you can see me or not.
Carrie?
Yep, I'm here.
She's there. Just give me a second.
Okay.
I have my earphones in.
Josephine.
Hi. Hi. Hi, it's Josephine DeMora. I can only hear you. I can't see you.
Yeah, the same.
Oh, my goodness.
Should be able to hear now.
Okay. Carrie or Josephine, can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear. Oh, now I can see you.
well.
Now I can see a panel of...
I can see you, I just can't see Josephine or myself.
And we can't see you, but that's okay. Maybe whoever would like to kick this off, please go ahead, Carrie or Josephine.
Yes, as long as we can hear each other.
Okay, the floor is yours.
I'm here.
Go ahead.
Joe, go.
Hi, this is so this is in regards to my the run that Kerry and Jay are helping me put on for June 6th. We discussed it with the mayor a few days ago, and I'm assuming I have to discuss it in front of all of you.
Yes, you get to discuss it with the board for their approval and also the public.
Yes. Well, I'm hoping you'll approve this run. It's very important, and it's for a very good cause. It's for rip current awareness, and we're trying to, make the public aware of the silent killer that took my daughter's life 6 years ago. She was a D1 athlete on full scholarship at George Washington University, 3 months shy of obtaining her master's there. She went undergrad as well. And she was a very, very well-known gymnast, and 7-time nationals. She was actually admitted to the Olympic team, but decided not to go. She's just going to take a full scholarship at George Washington University, and she wanted to live a normal life. And then she decided to go on vacation with some friends, after she graduated. And she was literally just standing in the water, and a rip current just pulled her away, and she did not know what to do. And instinctively, what most people do is they fight it. They fight against the current, and they tire out and they drown. So if my daughter had known that you should swim parallel, to the shore, she would have made it out alive. And I want to teach this. I want this mandated. I'm trying to get it into the schools. I'm working with Rebecca Seawright, Assemblywoman.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I'm very close to it becoming a law, to mandate teachings in health class in the schools of New York State. In the meantime, I would love to honor my daughter with a run, and before the run, maybe we can get the lifeguards together and talk about this, and spread awareness and spread education and safety, especially in the Hamptons, where people are so constantly at the beaches and swimming. I feel like it's imperative, it's important. And it shows that even an athlete like my daughter, could not survive a rip current. Imagine someone who isn't.
Yeah.
you know.
Well, thank you very much, Josephine, and we certainly all are very sorry for the loss of your daughter.
Thank you. Thank
But
you so much.
we appreciate you trying to create greater awareness for this. I know you're a village resident, and Carrie Calvert, actually, I think went to Southampton High School with our police chief, Suzanne Hurto, and involved in other races, Carrie, in the village. I think the Hope for Depression.
I've run every race and just ran the half marathon, so I'm very familiar with the roads. I spoke to Sue about the race course, which one would be the best, which one would be the easiest for the police to help facilitate. And she said the Hope for Depression was the best, which is my favorite course. We would start at 8. I've been directing races. I started and directed a race in Garden City for 15 years. So very familiar with working with the police, getting the insurance. I have a timer. I have, I know everything to do, a great race. And, I already spoke with Sue, but I also spoke with Matt Weeks as well as to get the lifeguards involved, get kids involved. Growing up in Southampton, I still am afraid of the water. We never were really didn't have the swim lessons, and I still, until I met Josephine, really didn't know about rip currents and what to do.
Right. Well, we appreciate your efforts on this behalf as well, and obviously you'll get volunteers to help with the race, in fact. But I think unless there are other questions from board members, we do have a resolution on later regarding this race. But I certainly would invite any of my fellow board members to ask any questions if they have any at this time.
I don't have a question, but I'll make a comment. I don't know if you've reached out to Matt Weeks, who heads the lifeguards. Okay,
Yeah.
and also and also our ocean rescue team as well. Because this is the alerts on the beaches are big features in the summer. They're very good about making these alerts for rip currents, and they will stop and talk to people about what to do in case of them. It's big on their minds. And among the Ocean Village, the Ocean Rescue Squad, I believe that more than half of the incidents that they've had to respond to are rip current.
No, I'm sure of it.
Yep.
I'm sure of it.
So
Yes.
they would be, I think, I can't speak for them, but I imagine they will be willing partners to help spread this word and also to promote the race.
Sure.
That's great.
All right. Thank you, ladies, both for joining us here this evening by Zoom. We appreciate it. And we're going to go back to our agenda here, but we will be, again, looking at the resolution later on in the meeting.
Wonderful. Thank you very, very much in advance. I
Thank you very
appreciate
much.
it so
Thank you both, ladies.
Take care.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
All right, at this time, I'm going to move to the Employee Recognition Award, and it's going to be going to Brenda Pinkney, Custodial 3 with the Building Maintenance Department. She was nominated by Robert Hand and the entire crew of the Building Maintenance Department. She actually will be retiring, but I would like to just read the letter that I received from Bob Hand about this. I, Robert Hand, on behalf of my coworkers in the Building Maintenance Department, am nominating Brenda Pinkney for Employee of the Month for her outstanding service and unwavering commitment to Southampton Village. It is with profound respect and immense gratitude that we celebrate her remarkable milestone of over 21 years of dedicated service to the village of Southampton. Her tenure, which began on May 10, 2004, is not just a measure of time, but a powerful testament to her unwavering commitment, relentless work ethic, and deeply felt pride in the work she does. For over 2 decades, she has served as the silent, essential backbone of our facilities. While her role is officially titled Custodial Worker 3, her impact goes far beyond the job description. She is the reason our fire department buildings and others are consistently immaculate, welcoming, and safe spaces for our staff, firefighters, and sometimes the public we serve. She has worked tirelessly day in and day out, ensuring every hallway, office, bathroom, kitchen, and fire truck bays reflects the dignity and professionalism of our village. We recognize that this level of commitment is rare. Your dedication has been a steady, reliable presence throughout countless seasons, events, and changes within the village. Your reliability and consistency have never wavered, and we deeply value the personal investment she makes in keeping our community environment pristine. Thank you, Brenda, for being more than just an employee and friend. Thank you for being a foundational member of our village family. We look forward to you celebrating your retirement and all the great things to look forward to. Sincerely, Robert Hand. And the entire crew. They all signed it. So, again, I think we should all applaud Brenda. And with that, we will go to public hearings. The first public hearing is a local law 14 of 2025, amending Chapter 80-1D of the Village Code. This is ocean beach regulations enumerated by limiting and controlling certain beach driving in accordance with the settlement terms of the Johnson et al. Versus the Village of Southampton et al. So at this time, I would open this to the public if anyone wants to speak on the code that will go along to keep the village in compliance with the agreement that was reached with the in the Johnson Beach driving case at the picnic beach at the the western end of Meadow Lane. Anyone from the public wish to speak about this? Anyone on the board wish to speak about this? This lawsuit was first brought up 25 years ago. So it's been a long time, and I'm delighted that we are finally getting to settle this lawsuit and putting code on the book that will, again, regulate this beach, hopefully forevermore. So if there's no one else, I will make a motion to close this public hearing. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay. The next public hearing is Local Law 15. This is amending zoning codes chapters 116-2B, words defined, 116-23B, special conditions and safeguards for certain uses, list of uses, and 116-17, minimum residential floor area of the Village Code of Southampton by adding language creating special exception uses and special conditions for workforce housing development, live-work units, and new single-family detached dwellings in the HRO and OD zoning districts in the Village of Southampton, and updating the use charts accordingly. HRO is Hampton Road Office, and OD is just Office District. I'll make the motion to open this public hearing. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Anyone from the public wishing to come forward to speak on this topic at this time? And Sage, I'm also asking if there's anyone on Zoom. Kimberly, Alan.
Hello. Good evening. So I just looked at this today, so this is a very preliminary comment on my part. I wondered if there was any due diligence done on the accessory ADU law that currently supports, workforce housing in the village. Because from what I understood from the building department, not a single person has taken advantage of that. And that was put in place 3 years ago?
Years ago, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, again, we've looked at that, but for whatever reason, again, the residents have not taken that up. Although I've spoken to some who actually have thought about doing it, where they wanted to have an addition to their home where they could have their grown child with their spouse have a place to live so that they could remain in the village. But you're correct. To date, I have not heard anything from the building inspector that anyone has come in to do that.
And then the second thing is somebody quipped today that the reason why it doesn't work is people who have a lot of money don't need an apartment that provides income to them. And then people who don't have a lot of money find it cost prohibitive to create what was in that law. Mm-hmm. So then I guess the second issue, and again, this is very preliminary because I've just looked at it. You're looking at the HRO district, and when I look at the zoning map, the HRO district, there's a little parcel to the west of Elm Street, which you've excluded from this exemption. Right. And I was wondering why. And then the other HRO districts kind of go around where the restaurant is all the way to David White's Lane. And there's only 2 vacant lots remaining. So there's only 2 undeveloped lots in the HRO district. The others you would have to tear down or redevelop or do whatever. But of those 2 lots, one is 245 Hampton Road. And according to the legislation that's being proposed, if 100% of workforce housing were allowed, 12 units could be placed on that, up to 14 units could be placed on those 1.2 acres at 245 Hampton Road. And coincidentally, at 220 Hampton Road, across the street on the southern part, next to the restaurant, Enchanté, I think it is, that would be, that's 0.7 of an acre, and the maximum workforce housing density would allow 9 units. So everybody wants this to work. But I'm just going to ask you, have you reached out to any of the residents on Osborne or Bauer or any of those neighborhood streets to ask them what they think. That doesn't mean this will happen, but you're creating this to potentially happen.
That's right. Well, we actually have had public hearings since, when did we first bring this up again? Eileen or Scott?
July.
I have it right here.
What was the first time that this was brought up?
Hearings, August 14th, September 11th, October 9th, November 13th, and then today.
Okay, and I'm not disagreeing that you didn't have that. I'm just saying, did you engage some of the residents? Because if I were living on one of those streets and I look at this beautiful 1.2 acre parcel that's got lots of trees and lots of wildlife, I would just be saying, is that something we want to convert? So I don't know if that's something you would like to do prior to approving this. So again, either, and the other part is you're also looking at the office district. I thought some of the legislation was good in that if you're a business owner and you run the business, you can place an apartment above it.
Yeah, and actually, I think we actually have someone that actually is anticipating doing that if we pass this law.
Yeah, and I think that's terrific. But all I'm saying is you've really concentrated this on a teeny tiny area of Hampton Road where you're going to get the biggest number. And I think those residents just deserve to understand what that means.
All right, but it's also including North Sea Road, which, as you know, is actually a much more commercial road, although not solely commercial.
Right, and that's good. And I haven't looked at North Sea Road, to your point. I just carefully looked at Hampton Road today after reading your legislation and met with folks in the building department.
Right. Okay. Thank you, Kimberly. Anyone else have any comments from the public or on Zoom? Or
I just want to make
Yeah.
a comment, Kimberly, with respect to ADUs, additional dwelling units. That was a topic of conversation at the Planning Commission hearing that was held on this back in October, I think October 17th, among many other things. There's almost 2 hours, Michelle, roughly, spent on workforce housing during that meeting in a large group. There seemed to be a willingness to explore the idea of modifying our ADU law to be more in line maybe with East Hampton. And I see Jacob Yayan in the audience, and he and I are actually due to meet tomorrow. We've been tasked by Christian and Michelle, who are the co-chairs of the Planning Commission, to look at ways, to look at a number of things related to workforce housing, possibly including the modification of ADUs to make it something that more people take up.
That's great, Rob. Thank you. The only other comment I'll make is, how will you enforce this? Meaning, who's going to
All right,
set
I'm
the
gonna turn
dollar
this over
amount? And you
to-
can leave it, but,
Yeah.
just questions.
But actually, this was looked at very thoroughly by our comprehensive plan consultants, Buckhurst, Vishak, Marr. And they have looked at, again, what requirements there are on Suffolk County and Long Island. And I believe we put in exactly, there has to be a third party that actually works here in Southampton, and that would actually be in charge of running the process.
Good.
Yeah.
But I am hearing anecdotally that people want it to work in other parts of the village more easily. So working on the ADU, I think, will give us
Sure.
that mileage. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Kimberly. Christine.
I didn't see the legislation, but I just had a question. On Hampton Road, I thought that there was no longer single-family residences for future.
That's actually,
Development.
that's not correct. You still can, but you have to get a special, you have to go to the board to get approval for that.
Okay,
Because it's zoned office. It's a special exception use, so it's zoned office.
For quite a while.
But, well, you can technically, though, go and get a special exception use
Because I
in the
thought
office
there was
district.
some situation where there was somebody that had vacant land where a house had been taken down right by the restaurant, and there was-
Yeah, I mean, I think there was one case that I think went to court,
Yeah.
but I don't have anything more on
That's
that.
the one I remember, but
Yeah.
because I watched the meeting,
Yeah.
and I believe they said there was no existing single-family zoning
That's correct.
During
'Cause
that
it
process.
was zoned in the 1970s as office district, when it was thought
Right.
back then that the village would need much more office space.
No, I understand.
And
but-
so that's why it was zoned that way. But we're learning now, especially post-COVID, that the amount of office space that they thought in the 70s would maybe be necessary with the village is actually not necessary. So we have these office districts that are, not being utilized for offices. So it was thought that these would be good areas close to the center of the village that could be used for some workforce housing.
No, I understand.
Yeah.
But my question was, if somebody took their house down, let's say they couldn't build another house
They could with special exception.
with a special exception. Okay.
Yeah.
But multifamily or workforce, multifamily is a prohibited use right now in the office.
Correct, that's correct.
I
That's
believe.
correct. So,
That's correct.
single-family
So we're-
residential, special exception.
This would be now allowing the possibility of workforce housing. And you probably know, Christine, since you're in real estate, that there are some buildings on the south side of Hampton Road that do have multiple residences in them. Yeah, all right. Anyone else?
I just thought, I don't know the first thing about it besides what I've read in the press and online with the situation in East Hampton, where a plan to develop some vacant land into 79 units of workforce housing was soundly objected to by the residents of East Hampton, and the plan's been withdrawn. I think, Michelle, that the gentleman who was proposing that plan was one of the speakers at the meeting we had.
You have to come forward, Michelle, and introduce yourself, please.
Michel Brogard, I'm a resident of the village. Yes, he was very enthusiastic, and it sounded like it was about to get done, and it was a interesting way to do it, whereas he was a developer, but he was selling the units to business owners who would then rent them out to their own employees. And I was at the Express Sessions lunch today at Rowdy Hall in Amagansett, and people seemed very surprised that it was turned down, and because a lot of people thought it was a great idea, but apparently the residents around were able to kill the project. They did not want the traffic and 79 units next to them, etc. So not in my backyard.
So we really are in a critical place here, that we all feel we need workforce housing. Our police, our nurses, our fire people can't afford to live in the village. And
Teachers.
It's a crisis. And yet, as we attempt to find places to build workforce housing, to Ms. Allen's point, the people who live in the area aren't necessarily crazy about the idea of having it there. Now, I don't know if they're entitled to have an undeveloped lot with a view. I mean, somebody's going to build on the lot at some point, I would think. But we really need to decide as a community where the priority is going to be. Are we going to try and create affordable housing or not? And of course, with affordable housing does come traffic, people, the whole thing. But where else are the teachers and firemen and policemen going to live? And that's a really big question for this community.
Well, I would just comment, with respect to traffic, I think it's a net decrease in traffic. Maybe not right in the area. A vacant lot that has no cars coming in and out of it will have cars coming in and out of it.
Right.
But people who live, especially in these districts which are closer into downtown, may do an awful lot of walking around the village. I'm not saying that they can't use their cars. But right now, the people who fill the jobs around here are commuting from Manorville and Hampton Bays and Comac and Flanders. And so they're driving through the village already. It's what's crippled the western side of the village and other parts of the village over the last 6 to 8 years. So if we do it right, and a few workforce housing units isn't going to change things overnight. But I'd also just comment this project in East Hampton, it was 79 units. That number alone scares some people. Whereas this plan and some of the other proposals appropriate for our village
Much more
would
limited,
do
yeah.
things in, doses of 3 to maybe 14 or 15 on a max. And that does get it a little bit larger, and we should hear from residents on that. I'm not sure it's practical for us to go and notify all the adjacent landowners and say this is what's coming. I think, in my opinion, the board's done a pretty good job of having this issue out there. people say we can also repeal or change the law if we pass it and bad things are happening, but that's really difficult to do. So we should make sure we're doing it as carefully as we can to begin with.
Follow up on that. I'm hoping that this public hearing will remain open. I was under the impression we'd be having more meetings with the Planning Commission in order to refine it further. In particular, I'm still disappointed to see that we have a 50%. And I want to speak clearly and directly to the purpose of this zoning amendment. We all agree Southampton Village is facing a serious workforce housing shortage. Our police officers, EMTs, teachers, hospital staff, municipal workers, and service employees simply cannot find attainable housing here. If we're going to amend our zoning laws, those changes must directly serve the need that we have. Although 50% market rate housing in the Hampton Road office district and office districts weakens that purpose. We already have abundant market rate housing throughout the village, and those units do nothing to address the shortage, keeping our workers living 20, 30, or even 40 miles away. We also know that land is scarce. Every parcel we open to residential development should deliver the maximum possible public benefit, and that means 100% workforce housing, not a split that dilutes the impact and shifts the balance towards private profit instead of public need. A clear 100% requirement also provides fairness and predictability. Developers know exactly what is expected. The village gets exactly what it needs. And the public can trust that this zoning amendment is not a backdoor expansion of market rate development. If our goal is truly to support the people who keep the village functioning, then every unit we authorize under this new zoning must be workforce housing. Anything less defeats the purpose of the amendment. And I do understand that there is a possibility of doing 100%, but with the 50%, I think that you're going to get situations where developers will probably be the ones getting the contracts, buying the land, and making the development, so we will not have 100% workforce housing. So if we can keep this open for further discussion, I see we already have a resolution to approve it. I think that may be a good idea, so we can have further discussion with the Planning Commission and with the people that can really develop workforce housing for the village.
I appreciate that, Ed, but I mean, we've been talking about this since August. Nothing is getting done. That means no workforce housing is being created. I am fine with the Planning Commission going on looking at other options for our village. This was something that we actually paid money to Buckhurst Vishyak-Mar to come up with a plan of how we could integrate workforce housing in the village. And we actually have increased the percentage split at your suggestion and others. And even the GFA has now been increased to a 50-50 split at your suggestion. I have incorporated those in this proposed.
My suggestion was 100%, not 50.
No, you wanted the GFA to be the same.
Oh, yeah,
Yes,
the
yes.
GFA, yeah.
So that is what we did. So again, I appreciate your comments, but we could be discussing this for the next 5 years and we're not getting any workforce housing.
Well, the village already has ample market rate housing, but a severe workforce deficit. We agree on that, right? Southampton Village does not suffer from a shortage of market rate housing. It suffers from a shortage of attainable homes for year-round workers, rentals under $3,000 a month, housing available for local families starting out. Allowing more market rate units worsens the existing imbalance, does nothing to stabilize the year-round community, encourages speculative acquisition rather than community building. We need what we lack, not more what we already have in abundance. So I do not see why we would allow a 50-50 split when really we should be working on 100%.
Well, Ed, can I just ask you, for any development to happen, it has to be economically viable. And my concern is that if we require it to be 100%, we get 100% of nothing, because nobody's going to be able to afford to build it with 100% occupancy. And we end up with the same situation as we ended up with the MDU, that we've got a law on the books that supposedly is meant to encourage workforce housing, but doesn't get any benefit because nobody does it. So I think you have to balance the economic reality of somebody who's going to develop the property with the needs of the community. And as the mayor suggested, the resolution has been modified, and the requirement has been increased to 50%, and the GFA has been increased to ensure that that developers can't cheat on it. I'd like to see us get something, rather than just have a very stringent requirement that nets nothing.
If I can make a point.
Let's call this woman. Yes, I'm sorry. Could you
Yeah.
introduce yourself?
Elizabeth Dance. I'm a resident of Southampton Village. I really agree with Ed. I think as soon as you change something away from to something like 50-50, you cannot go back, and you'll never go back, because the people who are developers making lots of money will just keep on developing up to their 50% point. And that's unfortunate, because, I mean, as a resident, there are so many places right in the middle of town that are classified business that are empty and have been empty for like 4, 5, 6 years. Maybe those places could be rezoned, maybe you've already addressed that. But I would start with something more like 90-10, see how that goes. If you don't get enough builders, then you relook at it and adjust. But I think you have to be really serious about and put your mouth where the people are saying, we need this, we have to have it, we've been talking about it forever. So I'm so much against the 50-50 idea.
100% requirement will not
say.
scare developers away.
Oh, it won't at all, and then they'll try to change it. I mean, this is the problem out here. There's too many developers out here, and all they do is build.
But just
But Ms. Allen actually didn't like the 100% because it meant more units. You get a benefit under this law. You get
I'm
a
not
benefit.
ready to believe that yet,
I just want to
Bill,
explain
because
those.
I don't trust you, so I'm not ready to believe that yet.
No.
I don't think Ms. Allen agrees.
No. But you get a benefit. You get more units if you do 100%.
Okay,
That is
then-
absolutely correct.
Go ahead, I'd like
That's
to-
correct.
I applaud affordable housing. I meant that if this one property allows up to 14 or 15 units, that people understand what they could potentially get. That's all.
But that would
Because-
only be if it was 100%.
That's right.
Right?
That
It would be
only
less if it was a 50-50.
Exactly.
Yeah. Right.
Exactly. But I'm not saying no. I'm saying this is new territory. We need to understand it. So what does 15 units look like on a 1.2 acre lot? It may be fine. I don't know. It's the first time I'm seeing it. My fault. I wasn't at the meetings. But I'm just expressing what other people have expressed to me since I looked at it today.
okay.
Okay.
And we did actually have a lengthy meeting with, actually, how many people showed up to discuss workforce housing at
At
the?
the Planning Commission,
Yes.
probably 30.
And most of them were for the 100%.
So a couple things, if I could. One, just to sort of definitionally, this issue of GFA, which has been mentioned, and some of you know this, but I think it's just very important because it is a critical difference. Doing divisions by units, if we said 50-50, if someone wanted to build 6 units, they would build 3 market rate units at, pick a number, 1,500, 2,000 square feet each, and 3 workforce units at an average of maybe 500, 600 square feet. So the percentage of space given is to workforce housing is smaller. When you divide it by GFA, that, say, a 6,000 square foot building, 3,000 units market, 3,000 units workforce at least, you're talking about 2 or 3 market rate units, and you're probably talking about 4 or 5, even 6 workforce housing units. So using GFA as a measuring stick shifts it pretty significantly to workforce housing. Just wanted to clarify that.
Thank you, Rob.
Thank you. If
Appreciate
I
it.
may, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead. Did you?
Yeah, I mean, talking about whether developers can't afford to build without market rate units, demand for buildable land in Southampton remains extraordinarily high. There's no evidence that allowing market rate units is necessary for development to occur. But even if fewer parcels are developed, the village's obligation is to produce the right kind of housing, not more market rate density. Across the state of New York, 50/50 inclusionary zoning has produced minimal affordable housing and often resulted in workforce housing that are fewer, smaller, and inferior. Municipalities are required 100% affordable in targeted districts consistently produce more effective results aligned with their policy objectives. I really think that we have the resources and the people that know how to develop 100% affordable housing. We have the financing.
They can do that.
Yeah, we have the financing, and therefore there's nothing that will detract from it. We do not need market rate developers to come in and develop. We can do it with 100%. I think there's absolutely no question that that cannot be done.
And they are able to do that with this proposed legislation, Ed.
Yes, but however, you do allow the 50/50, which means developers can also come in and buy the land before we get around to doing it for the 100%.
Well, we should talk to those people again that came to the meeting of the Planning Commission who said they want to do this.
Yeah, 100%.
They were ready to go.
At 100%.
So they can come in and do that the day we pass this.
Well, at 100%. So
Right.
let's
Did you
take
wanna
out
say
the
something?
50. Let's take out the
I've been
50%.
trying.
I'm going to call on Len because Len wants to speak.
Thank you. I think this is a step in the right direction because of its moderateness. This has been a passionate issue in this village for several years now, and I think I understand the economics argument that Trustee Stevenson made, and I agree with it. The geographic reality of this village is such that we're never going to have a lot of workforce housing in this village.
Right.
And I'm thinking of it like traffic, which is a regional problem. And I think what we should be doing is trying to partner with localities that have the appetite and the capacity to do this with us in mind. And that's my thought on the issue. But I think this is a step in the right direction for the village. And it's the first significant step this village has taken ever.
Yeah, actually, I complimented the mayor for bringing this forward. I think it's very important that we do this. And I also agree with you. We're not going to be able to make a lot of workforce housing.
We're not.
But making 50/50 makes even less workforce housing. So whatever little land we have, and it's not a lot of land, whatever we can maximize, let's maximize it to 100% workforce housing.
I'm just thinking of all the passion that was around workforce housing in the past. And I think this strikes the right tone. That's my opinion.
I'd like to just throw one other comment in, because I think I see Jay Deasing back here, and he was at the Planning Commission and has spent a lot of time on this issue, and he's the village representative to the Community Housing Fund. And they have a program where, general guideline, they can subsidize up to $250,000 per unit for the purchase and the upfront costs of workforce housing. And I think, Jay, if you'll nod, maybe, you had indicated that there's a recognition among your fellow board members that land is more expensive in Southampton Village. It also means you're getting more money out of Southampton Village on the tax that funds the Community Housing Fund, and there might be an ability to go higher than that. So when we talked about this a lot during the Planning Commission, there are programs around that provide significant subsidies. They probably will never give the same economic opportunity to a developer, but on a risk-adjusted basis, they can come pretty close depending on what your risk tolerance is. So, and I'm appreciating the comment that if I heard it correctly, it's easier to start at 100 and come down if no one's taking it up than it might be to start at 50% and try to move it upwards if things are going in the wrong direction. But I also agree with Trustees and Auntie's comments that something's better than nothing, and right now we've got nothing that allows us in these districts.
Yeah, but allowing the 50/50 is really a backdoor policy to allow development for market rate housing.
That's not accurate, Ed. Jacob, please come forward, member of the Planning Commission.
My suggestion would be to, Ed, because I sit on the board of a not-for-profit for affordable housing, environment, and teaching, is to do a parallel approval of this law to work with our township agencies, our state agencies, and our federal agencies to parallel quantify cost mitigation. Because to be honest with you, I do developments all over the United States and even as far as Mexico. Whether it's 50/50 or even 100, it's going to be a bit challenging because the entry point in Southampton Village, where, for example, we're looking at 131 Main and Jagger Lane. The entry point just for the land is $6 million. And the hope is on Jagger Lanes to build 5 one-bedroom apartments and 131 to add 3 two-bedroom, 800-square-foot cottages. I mean, between the hard and soft cost, and without Jay's help and Curtis's help, and then our involvement with HUD help, it'll never pencil out. So whether it's a 50/50 or 100, my suggestion is approve the law, but with a very clear language that the trustees with the Planning Commission identify cost mitigation programs with HUD, the township, and the state. Because unless we marry the cost mitigations, and not everybody is, a Gin Lane developer. It's almost unfair to make a blanket statement. I mean, there are those of us who do want to do workforce housing. So my suggestion is pass the law, but with a very clear proviso that we in the village will work to crystallize cost mitigation programs with HUD, with the township and the state to induce the higher ratio. And that's very doable because those programs exist. In fact, my son was a project manager with United Way of Long Island doing affordable and veterans housing up island. So they do exist. My suggestion is let's pass this thing, let's get some things going, but with a very clear understanding that we will work with HUD, we'll work with the township, and we'll work with the state to ensure we maximize that ratio, because otherwise we're going nowhere.
Let me ask you a question, though. Right now, this land that we're talking about is in the office district. And therefore, since it cannot be built on commercially for market rate housing, probably the land values are lower than it would have been if you could build homes. Is that correct?
Well,
The reason I'm saying-
any entry point, whether it's North Sea, Hampton Road, North Main Street here, we're coming in at entry point at well over $2 million, and that's already a big impediment, if you will.
Correct. However, if we open it for market rate development, probably.
No. We're not going to do that. The idea is the
50-50 makes it
ratio
open
minimum, but with the understanding, and to your valid point,
Yes.
is there are programs like HUD, like our township, like our state, where we create the variables that pencils out the hard and soft costs. Because I can tell you today, on the very basic 800 square foot 2-bedroom cottage that to put on this land is running close to $700 a square foot. And we're not talking about, we're talking about quality, sustainable materials.
Right.
And then let's not forget the Suffolk County Water Authority. We can talk all day long, because without their blessing,
Yeah.
none of this is going to happen. And you brought up a brilliant point that there are some wet silo ways of mitigating waste and water management. In fact, we'll be looking into that as well. But my suggestion is let's pass it, but with the understanding to exploit the opportunities with HUD, with our township, and with our state agencies to maximize as much as we can the ratio. Otherwise, it's not going to pencil out no matter who's coming up on this dais. It's cost prohibitive.
So you don't think it would be more reasonable to start at 100% and see how that works?
No. My
We're
suggestion
talking
is we can get to your point by mitigating the hard and soft costs through the HUD programs, through Jay's program, through Curtis's programs as well.
Yeah, Curtis Highsmith came in and
Because
spoke
without,
at length.
I'm going to try to meet with Curtis tomorrow. Without that collaboration,
Right.
it just never pencils out. It just doesn't. And we can talk altruism all we want, but either our investment committee or our banks will never lend it. They're going to look to the HUD program, they're going to look to the grant program to mitigate. Otherwise, from a risk-adjusted rate of return, it's not going to happen.
Thank you, Jay.
And I agree with you. I mean, my kids have moved away to Texas. I mean, we're one of those families where the families have had to move out. So it's in my interest, like your interest, to get this done.
So how can this be done so that we can pretty much guarantee we have
Minimum
100%?
50%, with an understanding proviso that we will work with our township, state, and federal agencies to maximize the ratio. And those programs do exist.
And organizations such
Yeah.
as Curtis Highsmith's.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So we should keep this open then this.
No.
We want to pass this
Start at the
tonight,
50.
Right. But
This
the-
is not limiting.
But the law right now does not incorporate.
There are plenty of opportunities where if we can get from 50 to 80 by these types of cost mitigation programs, we will. Any reasonable developer will do that. Us including, and our not-for-profit is igrowny.org as well. So my suggestion is let's get this through,
Yes.
to your point, with the understanding that we will, as village trustees, work with the township, the state, and federal agencies to maximize that ratio, hopefully to that 100%.
But that's not.
I would
that's
welcome,
not
I
in
would
the law
welcome
right
you,
now.
Ed.
Well,
I would
we'll
welcome you,
revise
though,
it.
taking
We'll add a
that
proviso.
on once this becomes law, that you work with, again, Curtis Highsmith, with Jay Deasing, with the state, with the county, to try and get it to 100%. That's, you should do that. That'd be great.
I'd love to do that.
Okay,
I think,
excellent.
I think we should start at 100%.
All right, I've heard you, Is there anyone else, anyone online? Okay. Anyone else, final comments? All right, I would actually like to close this public hearing. I think we've had this open since August, so I'll make a motion to close this public hearing. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Nay.
Okay. The next item is a discussion item on Chapter 65, again, talking about the landscape review process that was put in with the Architectural Review Board, and especially in its historic preservation, sitting in the Historic Preservation Board. So, again, we don't want to have everything all of a sudden inundate the ARB if we're looking at every landscaping review, such as street trees, some bushes. But again, I know Rob Coburn wanted to just discuss this, and again, I don't want to overwhelm the ARB with a tremendous amount of work.
So I think in our discussion during the last work session, it became apparent that some of us up here on the dais and also a lot of people in the public were not necessarily aware that the code that we've had since 1989 says for people who have properties in the historic district, you can't change the landscaping or the appearance of the property without a certificate of appropriateness. We understand why that's in there, but Trustee Stevenson brought up the question, does that mean if I want to plant, I own a historic house in the historic district and I want to plant a hydrangea, do I need a certificate of appropriateness? The technical answer under our current law is yes. That doesn't seem reasonable. So I've been working with, I had a brief conversation a while ago with Eileen on this, and she suggested that I speak with Alice Cooley, which I did. I've spoken with Alex Wallach, who's our village planner, and I've spoken with Mark McIntyre, head of our ARB, Board of Architectural Review and Historic Preservation. They all agree that there should be some reasonable de minimis exclusions from that policy, and they're working on it. So Alex is sort of quarterbacking this right now. There's a few different ways to go. Sag Harbor has a way of triaging landscape applications in the historic district. Some don't need review, some need minimal review, and some need full-on what we have in our law today. There are other ways to do it. You can define what maintenance is, which is allowed without a permit. You can define that in a way that allows some de minimis changes, additions, and deletions. I think that Alex is still working on something, and in our meeting in January is going to come back. I believe they're going down the route of maybe a proposed amendment to the code that just specifies some exclusionary principles at least, and maybe more. But I wanted just to see what other members of the board thought about it, and also put the public on notice if you're interested in this topic and have some ideas to.
Or if Eileen wanted to say,
do you want to?
Yeah, no, that's fine. I thought we were talking about making it a policy thing, but
we can.
We
it's
were,
probably-
and
it's probably more clear. if
It
it's in the
wasn't my
local code.
choice to necessarily, I said, it's their recommendation to consider, that's their primary way of going, maybe you should check in with Alex.
Well,
But
yeah, my concern is the way the code is written in black and white. It
Looks like
is-
everything,
It
yeah.
means everything. And so I think the only way you can change that is you can't do it by policy. You have to change the actual written word of the code.
Well, you could do it by policy if you said, this is what we mean by a review for, if it's this type, this is the kind of review. If it's
All right,
this
well,
type,
let's, why
this
don't we
is the
have
kind of
further
review.
discussions on
But
that
I think
with
it is
you and
more
Alice
clear if it's
Cooley,
in the
yeah.
code.
To me, the form of doing it, whether it's a policy guideline or whether it's in the code, is, we can massage either way. I'm more interested in them coming back with these principles, and frankly, the direction it seems to be going, I personally don't feel a need to direct it too much. They understand the idea, which is let's not burden in theory or create something in the code that we don't want to enforce and we're not going to enforce for de minimis plantings.
I mean, for example, right now, the tree committee actually is reviewing street trees and the placement of those. And they're looking, so there is actually something that is already being done regarding street trees in the village.
But it doesn't comply
But
with
it doesn't
the-
comply with the code. So, I mean, in essence, you're saying that the tree committee has to go to the ARB to get approval for what they're signing off on. Yeah.
And
I'm not saying it, the code says.
No, the code is saying it, that's what I'm trying to say.
And we've had this discussion as well. I think there's a way, and you can tell me the best forum for this, and we could just have a resolution for the board that says the general maintenance of trees across the village in the street rights of way, regardless of what it means specifically, block by block, or property by property. If we're generally replacing trees that come down, we acknowledge there may be changes to appearance here and there, but that work is considered maintenance and repair
Right,
of the
that should
village
be in the
right of
code
way.
as a
And they actually
definition
have
or
an
something.
approved list of trees to be used on the streets.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
in the village.
I'm sure we can work through this.
Okay.
If everyone-
Anyone else on the board want to comment on this at this time?
No, I think, it's been a terrible distraction. I've had this conversation privately with Trustee Coburn. I think total respect for the process concerns that you raised, but we really need to move on from this. It's an obvious failure in the code or resolution or policies that we really should correct and move on from this. Absolutely.
Okay. All right. Is that sufficient on that? So why don't we move to village updates? And this was going to be updates from board members, but I actually wanted to start with Scott Russell, who I've directed to work on a couple of projects, and I think the public would be interested in these updates.
Yeah, sure. One of the updates is, or one of the projects that you had asked me to take up was a recommendation from David Cardelli, who had recommended we reach out to Cornell Transportation Assistance Program to help us evaluate traffic and possibly mitigation and calming issues. I have reached out. I have talked to the secretary. We have a plan to have probably a Teams type of discussion soon. So I'll update you as that moves forward.
And the good thing
Also-
about that one was they don't, it comes with no charge.
Mayor Manga's favorite word, free. We actually have been in touch with the MTA with their plans to paint the two train trestles, one over North Sea and one over Main Street. They will be starting that soon. We're negotiating to make sure that they have 10 by 10 storage units that are needed right nearby to store their equipment. They're going to start with the North Sea trestle and then work to Main Street after that. I talked to them about whether they're going to be able to start the painting this time of year, given how bitter cold it is. And they said, well, those are issues that they're evaluating now, but they would like to get underway as quickly as possible. So I think you'll see those trestles painted probably by hopefully late spring.
Yeah, we hope before the summer.
Yeah, well, they do have a plan. They do have a plan to paint at night. So.
And I just wanted to bring up the update that the permeable reactive barrier in Dozier Park was begun today. This is where they're drilling very small wells that they're going to fill with wood chips and special materials that help to mitigate the groundwater flow from the central business district from leaching into Lake Agawam. So Isotech was here today, and they began that process. Again, this is also being done with some grant money, and so you will see for the next few days anyway some heavy equipment down there. Although it's not drilling like you think in the sense of drilling, they use vibration and water, and it's all sand below the soil there. So it's actually not hard to get down to, they were getting down to almost 70 feet today relatively quickly. And then again, they will be combining wood chips with different non-dangerous chemicals that help break up the leaching of the groundwater into Lake Agawam. So this was a good start. They came on a pretty cold day, but there were 3 guys out there, and I think it looks like we're off to a good start with that. I did also just want to bring up that the proposal for upgrading Village Hall, specifically adding a life safety fire escape at the back of the building that would be up to code. I learned that actually for code, the steps have to be 48 inches wide, excluding the handrails. So you actually have to have very large steps to be in compliance with fire code. And so the architects that have been working on this, the plan looks actually very similar to what was presented at this village board meeting in April of this year. But they had to obviously go to the ARB for approval. The ARB had some feedback, as they always do, and so the architect will be coming back in January with a revision to that plan. But it really actually is going to be a positive plan for the building, because it will provide, for example, a lift for a handicapped person to access the building from the rear instead of always having to go up the ramp and through the front. So it's actually upgrading the building and making it more compliant, because the fire escape that's on the back of the building is actually not compliant. It is not code compliant. It is not a suitable egress. So we have to do something to create another egress in this building, because we only have one staircase at the front of the building. So it is an important project. I've obviously told the architect that we want to do this as inexpensively as possible, but we do want to then have a renovation of the gutted 3rd floor so that actually the trustees will have an office that they can use when they're in the building. The treasurer's office will move to the 3rd floor in space which is much more accommodating. Right now they're living in what really is not much larger than a closet with boxes all around them. Not the best way to run the Treasury's department. And as well as having another meeting room for the public to meet in this building, because we only really have this room, which if it's being occupied, there's no other meeting room really that is sufficient to be used in this building. So, and right now the 3rd floor, as people may know, is completely just gutted with no walls, no ceiling, really not much of anything. We do store some of the files up there, so part of the plan is to actually have a proper file room created for the storage of some extra building department files. So again, they're working on the plan. What they presented to the ARB is really almost identical to what they showed the village board in April of this year. And actually, I do have to just say that when Trustee Simeone saw the plans, the word he used was magnificent.
Magnificent in the plan.
Yes.
And magnificent cost.
Well, we're trying to keep the cost
$3 million when this is completed.
Trying to keep the cost down, but
So $2.5 million, not $3 million.
yeah, but as I've said, this is actually really essential to the life safety of employees of the village.
Oh, you don't have to do the whole thing. You can just do the stairs.
All right. Anyway, so those are the updates that I wanted to present, but I'm happy to move to Trustee Coburn or Trustee Stevenson. Who would like to go next?
I'm fine, Bill.
Okay, Trustee Coburn.
Just very quickly, I just wanted to cover the groups that I'm a liaison to. So for Cooper's Beach, I've been working with our village clerk, Kathy Sweeney, and Matt Weeks, who's the beach director. We're putting together some tweaks and budget requests, typical budget requests for the operations for next year to be ready to reopen. But we're also trying to work on a 1 to 2 year and a longer term capital needs planning for the facilities down there to make sure we do everything we can from an infrastructure standpoint and operations standpoint to maintain our status. So that's an update on Cooper's Beach. For the Environmental and Sustainability Committee, I see Sheila Pfeiffer here. They've I think are still working, some were interested in trying to do a native garden project in Dozier Park. Anyone interested in that should contact that committee. They've been doing an awful lot of work lately on IA systems as well, and had a big hand in the recent presentation at the Cultural Center, which is a big success thanks to trustees Ananti. They are constantly bringing up, I'm not going to put you on the spot, Sheila, but I'm sure there'll be one or two other items. I'm probably forgetting one now, but it's a good committee, an active committee, and they'll be coming to us with a couple of other ideas, I'm sure. I don't know, Roy, if you want to talk about Village Business District, and maybe we save it for public comments, but there is a very active group working on some ideas for vibrancy in the downtown district and enhancing our assets, communicating, marketing better, and celebrating our commercial and our cultural assets, and making information more available to people. It may dovetail with the app, walking tour and app feature that the mayor has mentioned before. So we heard some exciting news today, maybe more on that later, but that's the focus of that committee. And then I don't really have an update on the Southampton Arts Center other than to say that they've got a major landscape project that's going to be, if assuming it's executed, and we should assume it's going to be executed, they've got smart people and very generous patrons funding it. It's going to be a real bonus to this village in the spring. But I've not heard back from SAC on other needs or priorities, but that's a quick update of my liaisons.
Okay. Len, you want to say anything?
Yeah, I share the liaison pleasure with Trustee Coburn for the Environmental and Sustainability Committee, and yes, the event on the 22nd was a home run, and thank you, Sheila, for all your hard work. I'm the liaison to the Budget and Finance Committee, and the audit is at the top of the agenda for them, and we expect the auditors to be finished and present the Budget and Finance Committee with their findings at the end of January or early in February. I'm also the liaison to the History Museum, and when the Parish Art Museum moved away, the village's art collection that was held in the Parish Art Museum was split between the History Museum as well as the Southampton Arts Center. I'm working closely with the village administrator, Mr. Russell, to try to inventory and ultimately appraise what it is that we own of art, because the thread has been lost many years ago. And lastly, I am the liaison to the Tree Committee, and given the state of the trees in this village with respect to dead trees that need to be removed, or sick trees that need to be removed, and other trees that need to be pruned, we have issued a request for information, RFI, for proper landscaping companies to come in and tell us what the cost would be of outsourcing such services for the village. Thank you.
I'm just going to, if I could jump back in, because trustees Ananti and I both are liaisons to the sewer task force, and I'm just going to say, expect to hear more. It's not a teaser. Sometime in the next 2.5 months, a little bit more about where we stand in the sewer. Maybe some specifics, hopefully, certainly some generalities about the timing update, some budget update that the task force is busy working on with their consultants. So it's worth just mentioning that.
Trustee Simeoni, did you
Yeah,
want?
I'm the liaison to the senior committee, as we call it the Senior Services Committee. And we already had 3 meetings, which were very productive. We also have some new members that have joined the committee, Bonnie Cannon and Chris Brenner, which I think can really give a lot of input for us. We're putting together a survey, and the next meeting is on the 16th of this month, I believe, at 9 a.m. We're going to try to focus how we want to go forward, and we're also thinking to see how we can also integrate the committee with the village, with the village administration, so that we actually have a department that actually works on this and can also finance what we want to do. So we'll be talking about that further as soon as I have better ideas.
Good. Excellent. And then finally, I don't think I have to mention this because I think most people in the village have seen it, but we did finally repave Hampton Road at the expense of National Grid. So again, the village did not have to pay for that repaving. They paid for the section that was just done due to their gas main work. But again, I think actually Rosemar did a fantastic job with the paving and the striping, and in fact, we even got a few extra parking spaces out of the restriping. So anytime within the village that we can get some additional parking spaces, I think we're doing a good thing. We are in a much better position than Sag Harbor in terms of parking in the downtown. But anyway, I think with that, those are the only updates that I have at this time, and I think we'll go to then Scott Russell for correspondence to the board.
Sure. We have one correspondence from Jerome Marcanto, who expresses what he recently had a pleasant experience traveling through the village. He was able to make it home in record time.
Oh, God, I like this guy. What's his name?
Jerome Marcanto.
You won't like his previous letter. This is a follow-on to a previous letter where he said it was a pain in the neck.
But now he likes it.
At any rate, he had a nice experience driving home. All the traffic lights were set at green, and he said he made it home very, very quickly. I think that's the answer to traffic gridlock. John Scagnelli, he raises some questions with regard to the proposed village wastewater project. First, he wants to know how harmful emissions or bioaerosols that escape into the air will be treated, eliminated to protect public health. Sit on the sewer task force with Trustee Zanatti. They're actually, safety had been first and foremost in their emphasis, and it's actually going to be a fully enclosed system, so there will be no emissions. Secondly, he would like an outline of any studies that were done evaluating impact on the public's health. I am fairly new to this. I don't know what was done, but he should call me at my office at 283-0247, extension 225. I will do some looking now, and if I can find some studies that might be interesting to him, I'd be happy to review them with him. So, third, we have Estelle Ross, who raises concerns about flooding at Flying Point Road. I guess that has been ongoing, and has provided some emails from other residents. Also has similar concerns with regard to additional stop signage, although that is jointly, I believe, owned with the town.
We share the town, that road down the middle with the town, so we would have to work with the town to do that, yes.
And the town said that they are not interested in putting the sign up, and I guess it's under their discretion, and they said they will not put the sign up on that. So that's all three, the only ones I have tonight.
Thank you very much. Now we'll open it for public comment. So Jay, you want to come first?
Thank you. Let me just say quickly, if I didn't tell anybody before, speakers making public comment have 3 minutes. Is he making a presentation for the village?
I don't know what Jay is proposing, so tell us what you're doing, Jay.
Can we focus in on that photo? Do I have it the right?
It should be. Yeah, excellent. Look at that. Wow. Great. Really good.
I'm selling that for $30 a copy, anybody who's interested. From my viewpoint, this is really one of the most iconic views in the village. And so tonight I have the pleasure of presenting the trustees with the results and a check from our matching gift program for the renovations to the World War I monument at Agawam Park.
Excellent. We always accept checks. How much is the check for?
It's a pretty good one.
All right, we like it. Well, thank you very much.
And I think I forgot to give you my name. I'm Jay Deasing, and I'm president of the Southampton Association.
And people bearing gifts are not subject to the 3-minute rule.
There you go. There you go. So the Southampton Association members individually donated $79,500 towards the renovation, and then the association matched an additional $50,000 for a combined total of $129,500. So I want to particularly thank a high school student, Robert Jifra, who created wonderful social media interest in the project and helped drive contributions. He made our job easier, and I think the results were phenomenal. But the story doesn't just end there. I sent out an email to all of our members late last night, and by early morning I had over a dozen emails expressing gratitude for the program. Additionally, though, one came from a donor who said that while it was a wonderful result, we simply had to round it up to $130,000. So they immediately committed to sending in another $500. So that check will not get to you for another couple of days, but the big number here is really something that I'm so proud of, because that monument, I feel, is the iconic view of Southampton. And it's unfortunate that it has degraded to the level that it has. And I commend all of you for stepping up to the plate, committing to get this done. And this, again, to me, is a wonderful public-private partnership. And we need more of this in our village. I think the community will step up, and I appreciate all of you backing this effort. So thank you very much. And
You can present that to the administrator.
Great.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Okay, next on public comment. Ma'am.
Good evening. Give me a second here.
Can you state your name too?
Jessica McNerney, Southampton Village. Nice to finally meet everyone. I am a lifelong resident of Southampton Village, born and raised. I'm here tonight because this administration has become, in the words of the mayor's former boss, Mr. Trump, a complete and total disaster. That disaster began the moment the mayor awarded himself a non-conforming raise and quietly preserved his path to lifetime taxpayer-funded health benefits, benefits he is now vested in. It continued when he pushed forward the solar awning structures without ARB approval, without community input, and without even basic transparency. But things have taken a much deeper turn. This administration is now hiding behind staff and misusing the term draft as an excuse to conceal public information. When residents and the Southampton Press requested a survey report that taxpayers funded, the village claimed it could not release it. The press publicly rebuked this excuse and rightfully gave you a dunce cap. Worse, the village's own records management officer then stated in writing that the document does not exist per village attorney. That was false. And you dragged the ARB attorney into this mess unnecessarily. Public information is not optional. It is required by law. And now, most recently, the problem has escalated. Major campaign donors to the mayor, acting through private entities, have been allowed to take control over public lands and install unlawful projects along Gin Lane, blocking the views of our cherished lake. It was also projected to never be approved by the Board of Trustees. A management plan approval in 2024 is not a substitute for required land use approvals today. The approval of that management plan, by the way, came from the same board majority that included your running mate, Trustee Robin Brown, whom the Ethics Board found violated the village ethics code. Rather than accept that finding Mr. Manager voted to waste taxpayer money hiring an outside Washington, D.C. attorney to produce a hollow opinion attempting to excuse it. The public does not buy it. Mayor, this has not simply been ineffectual. You have become a tool of ultra-wealthy donors whose interests shape the village policy behind the scenes.
You're at 2:45.
That's fine. This village needs leadership that is accountable to public and everyday people. I'm sorry I didn't bring a check for you. Even billionaire Leon Black, whom is a known Jeffrey Epstein associate, is a maximum donor to you during your campaign.
Okay,
I'll leave it there.
All right, thank you.
It was very nice to meet you finally.
Thank you. All right, anyone else? David?
David Rung, Pleasant Lane. I have spoken many times about the village's assessed value system and the administration of that system, which produces absurd and unfair results. The system and the administration of the system discriminates against a class of residents. That discrimination is primarily against full-time residents of lower valued properties. As I pointed out in a recent letter to the editor, if your village assessed value is more than 0.003 of your property's fair market value, you are being treated unfairly. Grievances filed earlier this year asked to be treated fairly. They asked to be treated the same as a list of high-valued properties, a list of the same as high-valued properties. And why is this appropriate to use this list? I'll read from the grievance form. It says, grounds for complaint. Here is the ground. The assessed value is at a higher percentage of value than the assessed value of other real property on the assessment roll. So it doesn't say in your neighborhood you can use all the properties on the assessment roll to determine your relative fairness. Okay, the board needs to address this issue. One, because it's the right, meaning the fair thing to do, but also because continuation of the present system and the present secret and vindictive administration of the system exposes the village to a class action lawsuit. You, meaning each of you, are derelict in your responsibility as board members if you continue to bury your heads in the sand, continue to discriminate against a class of residents, and continue to expose the village to the substantial financial risk of a class action lawsuit. What should the village do? The village needs a concentrated campaign to inform, encourage, and assist residents to file grievances. Volunteers like myself will help individuals prepare those grievances. Another part of the grievance process is that it must be entirely subject to the open meetings law, which includes the deliberations and the decisions. And why is that?
You're at 2:45.
All information concerning real estate is already in the public domain, and each member of that committee has a conflict of interest. The way you overcome that is to make the whole process available to the public. Thank you, and this process has great urgency because it needs to be done by the second week of February when grievances are due.
Thank you, David. Anyone else wish to speak? Sheila, please come forward.
Applause of one.
Good evening, Sheila Pfeiffer. I'm here just briefly to echo. I'm here as the chair of the Environment and Sustainability Committee. Both Rob and Len mentioned that we had a very successful public presentation sponsored by the village with all kinds of professionals and experts there to speak to our residents about the great advantages of replacing their septic systems. And now is the time to do it with $60,000 worth of money available to anyone who applies in order to do this, including disturbance to landscape. And I'm mentioning it again here because tomorrow we're going to have an abbreviated but very similar presentation at the Planning Commission meeting, which will be here in this room, right, at 3 p.m. So for anyone who's interested and missed the meeting that Saturday in the Cultural Center, you're welcome to come along, and we'd love to have you hear about this again. Thank you.
That's great, Sheila. Thank you very much. Anyone else wish to speak? Sage, do we have anyone online? Sage? No? Okay. All right. Well, then, I think at this point we'll go to suggested resolutions, and we will start with Len Zananti on the warrants, please.
Number one, resolve the claims for the warrant dated December 11th, 2025, totaling $3,844,115.36, warrant number A14 General. $22,792.13, warrant number H7 Capital, and $3,288.85, warrant number T13 Trust are audited and approved. I'll make a motion.
I'll second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay.
Number two, whereas due to there being only one Board of Trustee meeting scheduled for the month of December, the village seeks to ensure the timely processing and payment of certain invoices to avoid delay. Now therefore be it resolved the supplemental claims totaling $16,300.50, warrant number H8 Capital Fund, and $101,741.76, warrant number A15 General Fund, are hereby audited and approved, and I'll make that motion.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Number 3, resolve the meeting of the minutes for the November 25th, 2025 Board of Trustee meeting is dispensed, accepted, as filed by the village clerk, hereby ratified and approved. I'll make that motion.
Second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, Eileen, I was going to...
Number 4, whereas the Board of Trustees of the Village of Southampton is considering a local law amending Chapter 80-1D of the Village Code, Ocean Beach Regulations Enumerated, by limiting and controlling certain beach driving in accordance with the settlement terms of Johnson et al. Versus the Village of Southampton et al. And whereas a public hearing was held by the Village Board on December 11th, 2025, at which time all persons either for or against said amendment were heard. Now therefore be it resolved that local law number 14 of 2025 is hereby adopted. That's your motion.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay. Whereas the Board of Trustees of the Village of Southampton is considering a local law amending zoning codes Chapter 116-2B, words defined, 116-23B, special conditions and safeguards for certain uses, list of uses, and 116-17, minimum residential floor area of the Village Code of Southampton by adding language creating special exception uses and special conditions for workforce housing developments, live-work units, and new single-family detached dwellings in the HRO and OD zoning districts in the Village of Southampton, and updating the related use charts accordingly. And whereas BFJ Planning, the Village of Southampton Board of Trustees, environmental planning consultant, has conducted an analysis of the proposed action, and whereas the matter was referred to the Suffolk County Planning Commission for review pursuant to General Municipal Law, Section 239-M, and whereas on July 29th, 2025, the Suffolk County Planning Commission issued a letter of local determination, and whereas a public hearing was held by the Village Board of Trustees on August 14th, 2025, at which time all persons either for or against said amendment were heard, and whereas additional public hearings were held on September 11th, 2025, October 9th, 2025, and November 13th, 2025, at which time all persons either for or against said amendment were heard, and whereas the Board of Trustees of the Village of Southampton has previously determined that this proposed local law is considered an unlisted action under 6 NYCRR Part 617.4 provisions of the New York State Environmental Quality Review Act, and assumed lead agency status as there are no other involved agencies. And whereas the Southampton Village Planning Director prepared a short environmental assessment form Part 1 dated July 15, 2025, and BFJ Planning performed a full EAF form Part 2 dated September 29, 2025, which identified no or small impact may occur, and a full EAF form Part 3, which determined there would be no significant adverse impacts on the environment. Now therefore, be it resolved, the Village Board of Trustees issues a negative declaration pursuant to SECRA, as there are no significant negative environmental impacts anticipated by the zoning amendment, and be it further resolved, local law number 15 of 2025 is hereby adopted. I will make the motion.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed?
Myself, only because I still insist on the 100%.
Okay. But thank you.
So what is the vote?
I think it was 4 to 1.
This is just though for SECRA, right?
No.
No, this was the adoption
This
of
is the whole thing.
Adopting the law. All right. Len, why don't you have number 6?
Whereas the Board of Trustees of the Village of Southampton is considering a local law amending chapters 116-32, Board of Architectural Review and Historic Preservation, Procedure for Application, Public Hearings, 65-6, Board of Architectural Review and Historic Preservation, Certificate of Appropriateness, Application Procedure, and 116-37, Building Permit, Certificates of Occupancy, Fees Enforcement, to impose expirations on certain approvals issued by the Board of Architecture Review and Historic Preservation. And whereas the Village of Southampton's Planning Director has conducted a review of the proposed action, and whereas the matter was referred to the Suffolk County Planning Commission for review pursuant to General Municipal Law, Section 239-M, and whereas on December 9th, 2025, the Suffolk County Planning Commission staff issued a letter of local determination, and whereas a public hearing was held by the village board on November 13, 2025, at which time all persons either for or against said amendment were heard, and whereas the Board of Trustees of the Village of Southampton has determined that this proposed local law is considered a Type 2 action under 6 NYCRR Part 617.5, provisions of the New York State Environmental Quality Review Act, SECRA, and that no further review under New York Environmental Conservation Law, Article 8, is necessary. Now, therefore, be it resolved, local law number 16 of 2025 is hereby adopted. I'll make that motion.
A second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Resolve, the Board of Trustees approves the following 2026 beach parking permit fees as follows. Resident permit, no cost, 3 permits per property, 1 permit per business owner or manager. Additional permits may be purchased at the local non-resident village resident rate of $300 each. For local non-village resident permit, $300 each. Senior veteran local non-village resident permit, $200, limit 1 per property. Summer visitor permit, $600 each. Note, hotels, motels, and B&Bs must purchase a minimum of 10 summer visitor permits. I'll make the motion.
Second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay.
Resolve, the Board of Trustees approves the following 2026-20/2028 4x4 village beach driving permit fees as follows. Town resident village permits, 1 year, $25. Town resident village permit, 3 year, $60. Town resident senior village permit, 1 year, $10. Town resident senior village permit, 3 year, $30. A replacement permit for any of those is $10. I'll make the motion.
Second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay.
Resolved, the Board of Trustees approves the following 2026 Coopers Beach daily operation fees as follows. Daily parking pass, $55 each. Chair rental, $16 each. Umbrella rental, $21 each. Teak tables, $11 each. Coopers Beach stickers, $6 each. Cabana, $200 each. This is a cabana rental on the beach. I'll make the motion.
Second. Discussion. These are the same numbers as last year. Is that correct? Just want to make sure that everyone realizes there's no
Yep.
change.
Sorry,
Okay,
thank
yeah.
you for clarifying.
So we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay.
Whereas the Village of Southampton has been operating under a specific practice regarding the procedures and operation of village board meeting, and whereas some of those policies have been previously approved by a formal vote of the Board of Trustees, and others constitute past, long-standing practice, and whereas the board, for clarity, would like to formalize said procedures in a single written policy. Now, therefore, be it resolved, the board hereby approves and adopts the annexed Southampton Village meeting policy. I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Eileen, would you like to
Discussion?
realize the
discussion.
details of the annexed policy?
Yes. Should be attached here in your book at,
Yeah.
is it at number 11? Let me see. It's, looks like it's at number 10.
Number
Okay,
10.
number 10, right. So everybody should have a copy of the policy.
Yeah.
I drafted it based on conversations with actually almost every one of you about what the policy should say. Obviously, there was not 100% agreement on every issue, but I think most of the issues
Most of the issues.
the 5 of you actually agreed on. So this just addresses as many of the important issues when you're conducting a meeting as I thought was necessary. A lot of it's covered by local law, but we have regularly scheduled meetings, special meetings, and then I think the key issue is the agendas, how we're going to set the agendas. By law, the mayor sets the agenda, the clerk sets the agenda at the direction of the mayor. But we don't know what you want to specifically know. We address public comment, and we address the use of recording equipment in case that ever becomes an issue.
And we're making every effort to get agendas out to the board and public as early as we can.
Right. This actually changes one thing at the supplemental agendas. In the past, we would do right up until, the day of the meeting. Now, the supplemental agenda would only be in that period after, between 48 and 24 hours before a meeting. So there would be no supplementals after the 24-hour prior to the meeting mark.
You still could have a walk-on, though.
But you can have a walk-on.
If you
right.
have
And you
a
would obviously
motion,
to walk
a
anything
second,
on,
and
right.
a majority of the board approves of a walk-on.
And any member of the board can do that, so.
Okay, I do have an issue with one of the rules, which is a new one, although you have been, as a procedure, have been doing it all along, but at the last meeting, you did mention that I was correct, that concurrence was not required in order to put a resolution on the board.
For a walk-on?
No, for putting a resolution on board, there was no need for concurrence. We discussed that old regulation was for the preparation of the resolutions, not for putting it on the board. However, I want to address a suggestion.
Well, can I just respond to that, since you are suggesting I said something I didn't say?
I thought you had told Len.
There
that I was
were
correct.
two resolutions that we discussed that did not address that issue. That's what I was saying, that the two resolutions from the past did not address whether you needed concurrence or not.
Right.
What I have made clear is that since I've been here, which is a little over 2 years, I think all of you can attest to the fact that nothing is added to the agenda by a trustee without the concurrence of another trustee, and that the village clerk submits everything out and says, do I have concurrence to add this to the agenda?
And that was passed in March of 2023.
No.
Well, there was, I didn't actually find a resolution on that.
There's a resolution on that.
I couldn't find one. All
Well,
it
okay,
says-
regardless of that,
Yeah.
the practice that this board has employed
Right.
for the last 2.5 years is that there must be 2 members of the board to put a resolution on the
Right.
agenda.
But I'm just addressing, like, you're right, those two resolutions didn't address it, but I never said that wasn't the practice. I just,
Oh, no, I wasn't talking about the practice.
Okay.
I was talking about the actual resolution.
right, I couldn't find one,
Right.
so, and I looked.
So I want to address the suggestion that a trustee should be required to obtain concurrence from another trustee before placing a resolution on the agenda for discussion and vote. Let me be very clear, such a requirement is inconsistent with the principles of open government, unsupported by NICOM, New York Conference of Mayors, guidance, and unnecessary in a democratic system where the vote itself is the safeguard. Every trustee sitting at this table was elected independently by the residents of the Southampton Village. The voters did not elect us to wait for permission from one another before raising matters of public business. They elected us to bring forward ideas, ask questions, introduce legislation, and allow the public to witness our deliberations. A concurrence requirement would do the opposite. It would suppress issues before they ever reach this room. Trustees could effectively prevent an item from appearing on the agenda at all, shutting down public debate before it begins. That undermines transparency, accountability, and public trust. New York State Committee of Open Government and the New York Conference of Mayors are clear. Elected officials must have access to the agenda and to records necessary to perform the duties. Suffolk County municipalities allow the individual trustees to introduce their resolutions without needing a co-sponsor or pre-approval. If a resolution lacks merit, the board can vote it down. That is the democratic check, not withholding the ability to introduce it in the first place. Our residents expect open deliberations, not procedural gatekeeping. For these reasons, I strongly oppose any rule requiring concurrence before a trustee may place an item on the agenda, and I urge this board to uphold the principles of transparency and fair governance. Thank you.
Thank you, Ed. Obviously, Ed, anytime you can bring up any issue you wish to bring up in this meeting in public. We have a special session at the end of each meeting where I go around and I ask all trustees to bring up anything they wish to bring up. You can bring up at that time any issue you want to bring up. The other thing you were trying to say was that people should be able to put something on 24 hours before the meeting.
48 hours is okay.
Okay, because I want to remind everybody of the newsletter that you submitted last winter. And I'm going to read this here just because I think it's great to remind you of this. One of my first priorities has been improving public access to board agendas and ensuring better notice of upcoming discussions. I worked with my colleagues to implement a policy requiring agendas to be published with sufficient lead time, promoting greater transparency and public participation. And you're suggesting that we should be able to do this with only 24 hours notice. That is not what I would call sufficient lead time. Anyway.
If I may clarify, and I think I clarified this in private
You
as
did,
well
but
with you.
I'm reading what was written. I'm reading
If I
what
may
was written.
clarify, as far as I'm concerned,
Okay.
if we can have an agenda prepared 72 hours in advance, final agenda.
That's the goal.
Well, that doesn't happen. That's what I was proposing.
Correct.
But you said it could not be done. We need to have a draft, so I am only working within the constraints that you have given to us, that it remains open until 24 hours. So I am fine with the 48 hours. I'm fine with 72 hours. I have no problem
I
with
want to
that.
explain for the public why it's not possible to close it within 72 hours.
Well,
Today,
that is fine.
no, I want to explain now.
That is fine.
Today, I got from the treasurer, Julie Kudrup, who does an excellent, outstanding job. She said, we have an additional warrant. It has to get on, because if it doesn't get on at this meeting, there is no meeting until January. I said, that is a perfectly legitimate reason. The village must pay its bills on time. So we added that at the last minute. There was no way, 72 hours in advance, Julie would have had that information for us to put on the agenda. And it's not fair to the treasurer to say she has to get everything done 72 hours in advance when bills continuously come in to Village Hall. And it's not fair to the village clerk, who actually has to put together these agendas through many iterations, and it's extremely time-consuming, and you must respect the work that they do as well.
You forget that I acquiesced. I acquiesced. When you explained that to me, I acquiesced. So all I'm doing is working within the rules that you have established, that it's a draft in 72 hours, and we can present something up to 24 hours in advance. That's all.
Anyway.
I have not changed my position. I just acquiesced because you had a
Well, you
requirement.
did change your position from a year ago in this news.
I acquiesced because you had a requirement.
Okay.
Can
Well,
I
have a
just-
different, we'll agree to disagree.
I mean, just to clarify too, though, because there are two resolutions on. One is the one that the mayor proposed, which is this one that I tried to draft with as much concurrence by everybody as I could. This seems to be the only sticking point, right?
Only sticking point.
So the one thing we did do to sort of try to meet you halfway, because the other board members didn't want to do this, was to allow a trustee to add a matter on for discussion at a work session. So, and then that way, at the work session, there could be a discussion of whatever it is you want to discuss, including a proposed resolution. And then if there's support for it, then you would add it. But if there's no support for it, then you don't waste the time at the next meeting and have a resolution and a vote. This isn't about playing like got you and making people vote yay or nay on things. If there's no support for it, it doesn't go on the agenda.
And I would further add that the village attorney should really be looking at all resolutions for legal sufficiency. And it's not fair to the village attorney to get something to her 24 hours before a meeting and say this is going to be added on my say-so. So anyway.
I think the only dispute really now is just whether you need the concurrence or not, right?
Correct.
Right. And I think
And a resolution really,
that's the difference in
and the resolution really has more meaning, because that really allows for discussion and vote. And at that point, we can see where everybody stands, and I think that's very
Well,
important.
that was the purpose of the work session
You always have to
discussion.
have a second anyway.
You always have to have a second. There would not be discussion if there is no second.
Correct.
So
And
unless
if
you
there's-
have concurrence, there will never be discussion.
Correct.
Because there wouldn't be a
That's why we
second.
allowed it at the work session, and
Correct.
then if there's no support for it at the work session, that's the end of the discussion at the work session also.
Correct, but you get to read the resolution, so people understand what the resolution is, what you're trying to.
You would get to do that at the work session.
Not with the resolution, unless you have concurrence.
You can read the resolution during the discussion. At the work session doesn't require a
But
vote.
you can't vote around that.
There's no vote, but it
Yeah,
doesn't
there's no
require a
vote.
vote, but it does allow you to have the discussion that you seem to want to have, so.
And
I don't know.
Ed, as I said,
I
at
just
the
tr-
end of every meeting, you can bring up any topic you choose to, any topic.
So if I could, first of all, that's true, but that, with all due respect, Bill, it's a different context to having a comment at the end where most of these people who are still here now are likely to be gone with public comments. If past history is prologue, we have very few people who stick around and a lot of people who watch the video but don't watch the public
Well,
comment.
that was the purpose of the work session discussion.
Right, exactly. So that's what the beefing up of the work session discussions was meant to fill that gap. I would say, and this is going to sound, I'll just say that, Trustee Simeone put this forward in essentially the same form during the work session. And as Eileen pointed out, our attorney pointed out, the next resolution is really on the same topic. It's just Ed's version of his. And it comes after yours. And even though it was submitted before, which is part of the prerogative of being mayor. You get to set this agenda, and we're discussing this first because this is one you believe in. So you have a lot of power to set that. My biggest beef with this is that I don't like the idea of add-on or walk-on resolutions at all, unless it's truly an emergency.
But I think
And-
that says that in there.
Well, it says, but
It can be
it
only
also
added
requires.
if there are extenuating circumstances and time is of the essence.
Right.
And you
But
have to
the-
have 3 members of the board approve it.
That's the part I don't agree with, to be very specific. I want to get back to Ed's issue as well, but I believe, for instance, that, and I've mentioned this to you, to the attorney in private discussion, I think the attorney should be able to say, guess what, you guys may not think it, but I know the law and there's a legal issue here that requires that this be discussed at the meeting, in my opinion. I think that should have some consideration to it.
What do you mean, like?
Well, I'll just say it this way. Until I saw this drafted, I wasn't aware that it was going to take a majority determination to determine something was an emergency.
It always
It always
takes,
does.
it
That's
always
law.
takes a
That's law.
vote of the
To
board
add
to
a
add
walk-on
something
because
to a
you're violating
resolution
the
at a
24-hour
meeting. It's
notice.
by state law.
But
You
you're
can't just
violating the
add it.
24-hour notice, so you must have it as a vote that the board
The
majority.
board has
Okay.
to vote to add it to the agenda.
For an add-on walk-on?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, just for
So,
that.
Okay. Maybe I was talking then about the 24 hours,
Yeah.
less than 24 hours as a practice, that should be either the mayor, I believe the mayor should be able to put it on, I think any 2 trustees should be able to put it on, and I think the village attorney should be able to put something on in less than 24 hours.
I'm
That
not
would be
giving
it.
anything to the attorney.
I'm not a member of the board, so.
I know you're not a member of the board, but you know what I'm saying, which is that there may be issues on which, even if we're aware of it and have had a discussion, we may not have enough time to understand the legal imperative for liability management or.
But I mean,
for-
I could give advice on that.
Okay,
right? You
we
know?
can leave it to that.
Yeah.
I hear the practical concerns. I've said this before. I think if someone made a habit of bringing on a resolution and getting no support for it, that habit would go away. I think it's self-correcting somewhat. So on balance, I would be more comfortable if this allowed anyone subject to the timing rules to put a resolution on. Without concurrence. I think I agree with Trustee Simeone that the principles of openness and what we've all been elected to do should allow for any trustee in good faith and good conscience. And if they're not doing it in good faith, or even if they are and they're not getting any support repeatedly, I think that it would be very telling in and of itself, and the public should see that tellingness. So I think it self-corrects, even if we allow, or it would self-correct if we allow one person to continue doing that.
I think the practice back in 2023, before you or I were on the board, was such that resolutions were introduced and not getting seconded. And that's why the procedure changed. I thought it was a resolution that that board passed, but apparently it wasn't. But the practice has been this way now for 2.5 years.
Yeah, no, I understand. And we had
So
a very-
that's how it was corrected, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, it wasn't self-correcting, well,
Right,
it was
it wasn't-
self-correcting.
Yeah,
The-
eventually, right. But it wasn't from time, I get what you're
Right,
saying.
right.
Look, we had a very particular dynamic then. Let's hope we don't repeat that dynamic. And I'm not a fan of driving cars by looking in the rearview mirror at the hazards you've missed. We should be looking at the hazards ahead. So I understand why it was done at the time. I think it might have been necessary, but not best practice.
Yeah, and I also think that requiring concurrence undermines the independence of elected officials. Each trustee is elected individually by the voters and holds an equal seat under village law. Tying a trustee ability to introduce legislation to another trustee's consent creates a hierarchy restricting one elected official authority based on the permission of another. That is not how representative government works. No voter expects their elected trustee to say, I wanted to propose this, but another trustee did not give me permission. So I still insist that there should not be concurrence, and if a trustee wants to put a resolution on the board and maybe wants to go to the attorney to have it reviewed, that's fine as well. I think a trustee should be able to do so and have it there for, be able to read it and find out if the other trustees want to second it and then vote on it.
Okay, I just wanted to be clear that there is no law on this issue, so you are free to set this procedure yourselves.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course, there's no law.
They could have
It's
made a law
policy.
if they felt strongly about it, but they didn't. They want,
I'd also just state for the record and be clear with trustee Simeoni, I think it is still very good practice to have concurrence not only from one other trustee, but hopefully more than one other trustee. I think that that is a good practice.
Sure.
I would, if we could propose an amendment here, I would propose to accept this resolution subject to the reduction of, or subject to the allowance of one trustee to put a resolution on the board subject to the time limit, on the agenda, subject to the time limits given.
all right, so he's made a motion for an amendment. Does anyone have a second on that?
I second.
Okay, now you have to take a vote on whether people want to amend
Who would
the
like to amend
resolution.
the, all in favor with amending the resolution as it's currently written?
Aye.
Aye.
No.
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 Okay.
So there's no amendment. Now we have to take a vote if you're ready to
So
vote
on this,
on the
yes, on
current
this,
one.
number 10, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Nay.
Okay. Motion passes.
You got that, Kathy? Okay.
Whereas the Village of Southampton Board of Trustees seeks to ensure transparency, efficiency, and consistency in the preparation and administration of meeting agendas, and whereas the New York Conference of Mayors, NICOM, recommends that municipalities adopt clear, written procedures ensuring that all board members have fair and timely opportunity to place items on meeting agendas, and whereas the board finds it necessary and beneficial to formalize its agenda practices and align them with best practices employed by Suffolk County municipalities, now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Southampton hereby adopts the following agenda procedures, which are the guidelines of NICOM. 1. Agenda preparation. The agenda for each regular and special meeting of the Board of Trustees shall be prepared by the village clerk at the direction of the mayor. 2. Submission of agenda items. A. The mayor or any trustee may place any item on an agenda upon providing at least 24 hours notice to the village clerk. B. When practicable, all proposed agenda items shall be submitted to the clerk by 4 p.m. on the day prior to the meeting. 3. Placement of items during a meeting. Items may be placed to the agenda at any time, including during the meeting itself, upon majority vote of the Board of Trustees. 4. Distribution of the agenda. The village clerk shall prepare and email the completed agenda to all board members no later than 5 p.m. on the day before the meeting. 5. Supplemental agendas. When necessary, the village clerk may distribute a supplemental agenda at the beginning of a meeting to address late arriving items on matters requiring immediate attention. Be it further resolved that these procedures shall take effect immediately and shall govern all subsequent meetings of the Village of Southampton Board of Trustees unless amended by further resolutions. I make a motion. Do I have a second?
Second for purposes of discussion.
We already discussed it.
Yeah, I mean, it feels to me like this is incompatible with the resolution we just
It
adopted.
would be legally incompatible. We couldn't have both
Incompatible.
policies.
Well, it's also going back to exactly, again, what trustee Simeoni in his, whether he realizes it or not, the last year's newsletter of the winter changes it that somebody can put on something as long as it gets to the clerk 4 p.m. the day prior to the
I'll
meeting.
amend it to 72 hours. How about that?
Okay, but that's not written.
I'll amend it to 72 hours. How about that?
You need to make a motion to amend it.
I make a motion to amend it to 72 hours. Do I have a second?
All in favor? Okay, I don't think that motion.
Was there a second? I didn't hear. a
No,
se-
there was no
oh,
second.
So there's no second, so you can't vote. Okay.
So,
So now you have to vote on this resolution,
Yes.
unless there's more discussion.
no, all in favor?
Aye.
I'm going to abstain just because I think it's moot. I think it's not, I regret doing that for a lot of reasons. but
Okay, opposed?
No.
Nay.
Hey,
Okay.
So it's 1 to 3 to an abstain. Sorry.
Trustee Coburn, you abstained?
He abstained, yeah.
Okay. Next, whereas the Village of Southampton issued a request for bids for the installation of an IA septic system and installation of water service for the comfort station at Moses Park, and whereas one bid was received and opened in accordance with the procurement requirements of the Village of Southampton, and whereas the bid submitted by Ken Roussel Incorporated in the amount of $115,998 was found to be responsive and responsible. Now therefore be it resolved, the mayor and the board of trustees of the Village of Southampton hereby accept the bid submitted by Ken Roussel Incorporated in the amount of $115,998 for the installation of an IA septic system and water service for the Moses Park Comfort Station, with funding to be expended from the capital budget allocated for the Moses Park renovation project, and be it further resolved, the mayor is authorized to sign the necessary contract, subject to approval by the village attorney as to form. I'll make the motion.
second.
Discussion. So the reason why this is expensive is they have to run water from Moses all the way to the rear of the park, which is actually up against the train tracks. And it is going to be, a copper pipe to get water all the way across there. And so that is really what is the majority of expense here. I will add, however, though, that the town of Southampton, through their Clean Water of the Community Preservation Fund, is providing $50,000 for the IA system. So you can deduct the $50,000 from this, and then basically we're paying for the new water service where there had never been a water service. So we have a motion. Is there a
Yes, there
second?
was.
All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, thank you.
Whereas the fire chief has requested a budget transfer to cover the cost of replacing malfunctioning security cameras at the firehouses and adding necessary new cameras, and whereas sufficient funding is available in the fire department training and conference budget line, now therefore be it resolved, the Board of Trustees hereby authorizes and approves the following budget amendment. Decrease A.3410.452 fire training conferences by $13,000. Increase A.3410.44 fire contractual services by $13,000. I make the motion.
Second.
Just a quick discussion. Ricky Fowler, the assistant chief, sent me an email saying that they needed to replace the cameras at the fire station, and that they had the money, and what did I think about doing that? And at the bottom of the email, there were several images that I emailed him back and I said, what are those things you put at the bottom of the camera? Because I can't see anything through them. He said, that's what we're seeing out of our cameras now. So evidently the cameras that were protecting the fire station from anybody coming in and doing damage, or just so that they could see what was going on, absolutely were non-functional. And this is a budget request to install new cameras so that they have the security and information that those cameras would provide.
All right, there's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, whereas the police department has received a $200 Christmas donation from Milahan Nikola Todorovic, and whereas the Board of Trustees wishes to express its appreciation for this generous contribution and amend the budget accordingly, now therefore be it resolved, the Board of Trustees hereby authorizes and approves the following budget amendment. Increase A.2703, gifts and donations by $200. Increase A.3120.46, police miscellaneous by $200. I'll make the motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. 15, resolve the Board of Trustees approves Mayor Manger to attend the annual NICOM Winter Legislative Meeting from February 1 to February 3, 2026 in Albany, New York. Registration, training, hotel accommodations, meals, and travel expenses are estimated at $1,280. I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Resolved, the Board of Trustees approved the Alexandra Demora Rip Current Awareness Foundation to hold its first annual Alexandra's Rip Current Awareness Run Walk on Saturday, June 6, 2026, from 6 a.m. to 11 a.m. with a race start time at 8 a.m. at Agawam Park. I make the motion.
A second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Whereas the Board of Architectural Review and Historic Preservation commissioned a historic resource survey, the survey, prepared by Preservation Studios to identify and document potentially significant historic resources and consider potential historic district boundaries in the village, and whereas the village public interest in transparency, accountability, and informed participation in decisions affecting zoning, property values, and historic preservation warrants broad access to relevant village records, and whereas the survey constitutes a village record created for governmental purposes and under the State Freedom of Information Law and Village Code Chapter 21, there is a presumption in favor of public disclosure, and whereas the preservation of historic resources and any potential landmark or historic district designation may affect property rights, community character, and local policy, thereby warranting full disclosure to the public, as well as review by the village elected board, and whereas the Board of Trustees is vested with power to oversee, direct, and control village property records and affairs under village law and 4-412, and now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby authorizes all members of the board to receive and review the Preservation Studios Historic Resource Survey in its current form, and be it further resolved that the village clerk acting as records access officer is hereby directed to make the survey available simultaneously for inspection and copying under FOIL to any member of the public, subject only to redaction of any portion that qualify for lawful exemption under FOIL 87-2, and be it further resolved that this resolution does not bind any future Board of Architectural Review recommendations or trustee decision on landmarking or historic district designation. It simply ensures public and trustee access to the survey, and be it further resolved that once this resolution is adopted, the village clerk shall publish a notice on the village website and otherwise make clear to residents that the survey is available for inspection and copying upon request. Discussion. Tonight.
Well, you've got to make the motion.
I make a motion. Do I have a second?
For purposes of discussion, I'll second.
Discussion. Tonight, I am presenting a resolution that addresses an issue fundamental to transparent, responsible government, access to the Preservation Studios Historic Resource Survey. Some have argued that our Board of Architectural Review and Historic Preservation is an independent body with the authority to withhold the survey, backed by its own attorney. That argument is simply incorrect. The Board of Architectural Review and Historic Preservation is not an autonomous agency. It is a village board created by and answerable to the Board of Trustees. It has authority over preservation decisions, not authority over village records. The law is very clear on this point. Under Village Law 4-12, we, the trustees, are responsible for the management and control of village property, finances, and affairs. FOIL and Village Code Chapter 21 assigns all record access authority to the village clerk and the administrator, not the Board of Architectural and Historic Review. No subordinate board can decide what information the governing body may or may not use. The Preservation Studio Survey is a village record. It was commissioned by the village, paid for with village funds, and produced for village purpose, evaluating historic resources and potential district boundaries. Whether or not it is considered a draft, FOIL requires the disclosure of factual data, and the survey is, at its core, factual, inventories, dates, architectural descriptions, and historical analyses. As trustee, we cannot be expected to evaluate zoning impacts, preservation proposals, or resident concerns while being denied access to the very document underpinning those decisions. NICOM and the Commission on Open Government both affirm that elected officials must have access to the records needed to carry out their duties. We owe our residents transparency. Historic district decisions can affect property rights, regulatory responsibilities, and character of our community. Transparency builds trust, secrecy breeds suspicion. This resolution simply ensures that trustees can do their job and that the public can see the basic facts that may shape future preservation decisions. I urge my colleagues to support this resolution, to reaffirm the authority of the Board of Trustees, and to uphold our commitment to open, accountable government.
Thank you, Ed. Well, one thing that's going on right now is that the FOIL appeals officer, who is the village administrator, is reviewing the information that was provided by the consultants. He will have a decision on if it can be released as part of his duties as the FOIL appeals officer. I am confident that the village administrator, in undergoing these duties, will handle it appropriately. So, again, I think it should be left right now with the FOIL's appeal officer for his decision. And again, this information was done at the request of the ARB with actually money from a state grant. It actually was not taxpayer dollars, it was a state grant specifically for the purpose of putting this information together. And again, I'm believing in the process that, again, it first went to the village clerk, now it's with the village administrator, and I think they should make their decision, and I will not insert myself into the business of the Architectural Review Board.
Well, the Architectural Review Board has authority over their own decisions or their own resolutions, but they do not have any authority over the custody of village records. Custody and disclosure of village records, including studies prepared for the Board of Architectural Review, are controlled by the village clerk, the village administrator, and the Board of Trustees.
Eileen,
Under village law, and the Board of Trustees.
Okay, Eileen, did you want to add anything?
Well, I mean, they're an independent board, so the document belongs to them. Whether it's subject to FOIL is a different issue, and that's the question
that's what
for
it's
the
being
village FOIL officer, and then on an appeal, the village
administrator.
FOIL appeals officer, who in this case is the village
I think
administrator.
an important point, and Trustee Simeone says he'd like to see the document because he needs it to do his job, but at the present time, the decision as to whether or not the historic district would be expanded or not is not the purview of the Board of Trustees. It's the purview of the ARB. Now, I've gone on record saying that I think it should be the purview of the Board of Trustees, but at this point in time, it is not. So we don't need that information to do our job because it's not our job to decide right now. So I'm also concerned that it's a draft document. So to get the document and to disseminate the information in it, which is not the final version, has a risk of inflaming opinion about something that is not even the final findings of the report. So seeing as it's not our job to decide whether the historic district is expanded, and seeing that there is that risk, I don't think that the report should be shared until the FOIL officer decides, having reviewed it, whether or not it should be.
factual information is foilable. And the argument that the Board of Architecture and Historic Preservation is independent and can therefore withhold the Preservation Studio survey backed by its attorney is fundamentally flawed and has no grounding in law. First,
You've said that again and
the
again.
ARB is not an independent agency.
Yeah.
It is a village board created by the trustees. It does not control village records and cannot preempt the statutory authority of the village clerk, administrator, or trustees. FOIL applies to the Board of Architecture review, and it cannot exempt itself from the Freedom of Information Law, nor can its attorney. The survey is a FOIL record. Its factual content must be released. Trustees have statutory oversight responsibilities and cannot fulfill them without access to fundamental planning and preservation documents. State guidance confirms a right and duty to review such materials. The Board of Architecture review attorney role is advisory only, since I've been told that she's the one that said they cannot be released. They do not have the power to restrict trustee access or control public disclosure. Finally, allowing one board to withhold critical information would dismantle transparent government across the village. Planning, zoning, budgeting, and preservation would all occur behind closed doors if they all could withhold their documents. The position that the Board of Architecture Review may hide this report is not only legally incorrect, it is democratically untenable. It should be released.
Can I
Thank you,
please
Mr.
insert,
Simeone.
can I please
Yes,
insert
as
myself
as
into the discussion?
As the FOIL appeals officer,
Yeah.
I think we should listen to the village administrator.
Well, first one correction, it was not the attorney's determination that the product couldn't be released. She advises the board, it's ultimately the ARB that decided that the document couldn't be released. However, that's what an appeal process is for. She had offered advice, they had made a determination, the product wasn't disclosed. However, the appeal is, I've received several appeals, I'm reviewing the document now. It might be subject to complete disclosure, it might be subject to complete redaction, or it might be subject to partial. I'm going through line by line and applying the law as appropriately as should be. It's important to remember that facts and figures and things are, yes, they're disclosable. However, recommendations and opinions are not. And in some instances, it's very easy to call out which is which, and in other circumstances, one is so integrated with the other. Rather, recommendations and opinions are so integrated with facts in the same paragraphs, it's difficult to call out, what should be the determining factor. I'm going through that I'm doing that as thoroughly as I can. It's probably the one project I've spent the most time on since I've been here, and I'm certainly honored to be appeals officer. Thank you for that. But I will tell you, I assure you, it will be released soon. It will be released in a manner consistent with New York State open meetings law and compliant in every aspect, and it will come with a cover letter from me explaining exactly why the document that's released, the product that's released, why it's released the way it's released.
Well, that's what my resolution says, but a clarification. A trustee does not get a redacted copy. Trustee would get the whole document, correct?
That's a policy issue for the trustees to solve.
Right.
I'm releasing a document.
Right.
I haven't decided whether it's be entirely redacted, whether it's going to be entirely disclosed. I'm going line by line
Well,
on that.
that's
Whether
for-
you're entitled to a full review or not, that's a policy decision for your board of trustees to solve.
Well, usually a
Mayor,
trustee
can you-
does have full access.
That might be fine, and that's a discussion you need to have with the trustees.
And my resolution also says that for the public, it would be redacted where appropriate. So I'm fine with that as well. That's what my resolution
That's,
says.
again, a policy decision for you to discuss with the board of trustees.
Well,
I'm
my
not going to
resolution
presume to
determines
insert
it.
myself into the business of the ARB or the board of trustees.
And can I just clarify, and maybe Mayor, you can clarify, the ARB has agreed to release the final version of the report as soon as it's available.
Absolutely, and I said that
So
in
what
the
we're
letter to the
arguing about
editor.
here is the release of the draft form, not the final. The ARB is going to release the final report when it is finished.
And there will be public hearings, people will be allowed to comment, there will be interaction with everybody that wants to interact on this. The fact that someone's hiding it is ridiculous.
Yeah,
May I-
Go ahead.
I'm just going to ask clarification. When we reach a point where, let's say, they're releasing a final report, I assume this is the case. I think we spoke about this, but a long time ago, and I may have had it wrong. Everything at that point, even the interim work product, would become a public record. Is that correct?
I don't think that's accurate, but I have to, I don't know what we're talking about, so I would have to really look at it to decide. But the whole idea of the interagency communication exception to FOIL is to allow free discussion between the board members and the consultant and whatever before they move forward.
Okay.
I mean, if you ultimately release it, what's the purpose of that?
Well,
People aren't going to discuss it if they know
Right.
that it's
I guess my
going to be public.
question would be
There's
just to be
tons of
specific.
case law on this.
If when there's been a final presentation made, the email, presumably email that transmitted this, let's say, to the ARB chair to begin with, is that and its attachments a foilable document?
No, it's still subject to the interagency exception of FOIL unless that
different to what I-
document contains factual tabulations, directions to the public, that kind of thing. It's to encourage open discourse and discussion among the decision makers, so they can reach a point where they move forward. There's lots of
But
case
at this
law, and
point,
I could
I
show
mean,
it to you.
again, the village administrator has
He's going to look at it, yeah.
the work product. He's reviewing it, as he said now twice, line by line. He will, make his decision as the FOIL appeals officer to make it available, or what can be made available. But again, I think there's undue excitement over something that's incomplete, and again, we know for sure will be made public, and the public will have open meetings where they can talk about it, they can give any opinions or thoughts or ideas and interact with the ARB. And then if we take over the control of saying what districts can be expanded, eventually it would come to the Board of Trustees, and we will have an open meeting with public comment, and then some decisions made. So there are many occasions, and when this will be made public for, again, public participation, and again, public comment, everything that goes along with doing anything in this village.
a trustee should be able to have access upon demand.
Okay.
Does not have to wait, and the Board of Architectural Review does not have the authority to withhold a document. That document should be available to a trustee. And it is also foilable, and I appreciate the fact that Scott's going to be looking at it and see what part needs to be redacted. And I would presume that if it is foilable, it will be released. Will the release and survey early confuse the public? No, transparency prevents confusion. Residents have a right to the facts before decisions are made, not after conclusions are formed behind closed doors. Let's see the survey.
There's no decisions being made behind closed doors, Mr. Simeone.
It will be if we're waiting till they make their decision.
No, it's
What?
not a decision, it's just a report.
It's in draft form.
All right.
We appoint.
We have
these-
a motion.
Well, wait, allow me, please.
Yes.
It's a draft item. You don't show the IRS your taxes as when you're drafting them. You wait until you submit them. It's a draft item. We appoint members of our community to boards and committees to be entrusted with making decisions. I don't think interloping on the integrity of the process or their integrity is appropriate at all.
All right, we have a motion and a second.
I just want to make one other comment.
Okay,
Because
quick,
it's,
quick.
yeah, I will. It's related. And I've been discussing with our council on this as well. We expect probably in January to come with, this is just on a related topic, with a proposal to do something that I think everyone has agreed they're at least willing to consider, and a majority have said they would like to do if we can do it in acceptable form, which is to move the ultimate decision on historic district creation, maybe or maybe not landmark designation. That's the remaining sticking point. from the ARB to the Board of Trustees, which is the practice in the 3 other local CLGs in our area, Sag Harbor, East Hampton, and Southampton Town. So,
And I just need more direction on that.
I know,
so we can
we're going to work on
do
more
this.
direction,
Yeah.
but just wanted to say, which makes some of this discussion, I don't want to say moot, but reinforces the idea that this decision may well come to us before
Yes.
there's anything more than a recommendation from the hard work of the people in the Board of Architectural Review and Historic Preservation. Thanks for letting me
Okay,
say
yeah,
that.
sure. Okay, so we have a second, a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Nay.
Nay.
I'm going to vote aye, just for the record.
Okay, so it's 3-2. Yes. I mean, 2-3, sorry. Yes, sorry.
Okay.
The motion fails.
You
but
get
it's
to
2-3.
keep working.
Yes.
All right. With that, we'll come to comments from board members, and we will start with Trustee Coburn.
Sure. I'm going to add something very quickly just to pick up on something that was mentioned earlier. Not with respect to grievances, but I just want to remind, and I'm going to dive into this in the new year, we do, and I've had some discussions with our village administrator on this, I think we are overdue for a reassessment of the village. I'm not saying we should rush into it in the next 2, 3, 6 months, but it's been 33 years, it'll be 34 years next year since we've had a reassessment in the village. That's not good practice by a lot of measures. And importantly for me, I believe, I reasonably right now, that when we do get to some recommendations on the sewer and get to the point of financing it, some of that financing burden is going to be determined by the allocation of taxes among residents as they exist already. It'll effectively be a surcharge. So to me, it would make sense to get our fundamental assessments under better order before we then add that surcharge to it as well. One of the possibilities would be to work with or simply adopt the town assessments. The town already assesses all of us anyway for personal town taxes. So I just wanted to mention that. I will also just say that my husband and I went to an amazing event, which people went to see the exhibit over a long period of time, but the Southampton Cultural Center hosted, in conjunction with the Southampton History Museum, a joint event last Friday and an exhibition that went on for longer, which was remembering the people who had served in World War II from Southampton Village. It's really an amazing piece. If you haven't seen it, I don't have the dates, but I think there's still a chance to see it. And they're going to work to try to make it available online as well. It's very moving history of the different families and people and the sacrifices that were made in very great numbers by people from our village. I don't know, Roy, if you're going to touch on the village partnership in any detail, but we had a Zoom call today. We've had 5 or 6 of them over the last 4 months. We're moving in a very exciting direction with the use of technology to find ways to get a more centralized location for information on events and amenities and services and retailers in the village at people's fingertips online and by their phone. And particularly with the focus of trying to get some common messaging and particularly maybe some better off-season messaging to entice more people to come and stay in the village during the off-season. But it's a very good group working on it, and there's exciting things. Expect more over the next 3 to 4 months. And I'll just give a shout out also, which I think was mentioned a couple weeks ago, but in relation to the Parade of Lights. But the Public Works Department always does a lot of work getting the village ready for the holiday season, and it's never been a disappointment, but I would say this year it's been a particularly good job, and I wanted to appreciate both their efforts, because it's a lot of work, and the results. And with that, I'll just say happy holidays to people who celebrate or people who just enjoy the peace of this time of year.
I'm sorry, I don't want to drag out the meeting, but just one clarity. We talk about the assessment process, and I'm happy to share all of my insight. I do not take positions on revals and things like that, reassessments. That's a policy decision. I just simply offer insight.
I know. We've just done some brainstorming with respect to some of the mechanisms that might be available to us, and I've appreciated that.
I just wanted to be consistent with my goal to be obscure as behind the scenes as possible.
Thank you. Okay.
All right, Trustee Simeoni.
Yeah. Well, I'd like to second support Trustee Coburn's suggestion that we reassess the village. I think that's very important. It's a time that we do that finally. And apart from that, I think I spoke enough tonight, and I just wish everybody a happy holiday.
Okay, thank you. Trustee Stevenson.
Thank you. Trustee Coburn mentioned the Southampton Village Partnership, which is a group that he and I both work with, village business people and residents It includes Eldon Scott, Jeannie Strulis, Besim Kujag from the Southampton Chamber of Commerce, Dee Dee Goodhoff from the Southampton Inn, Jeff Hull, who am I
John
forgetting?
Betts.
And John Betts from Shippies, and
Amy Berman, a new member?
Amy Fraser.
Amy Fraser. I thought I mentioned Amy. Anyway, it's a very good group of people, and the idea is, what can we do to help the businesses that are here in our village survive? Because the economic reality of being a business person in Southampton is that you have 3 fantastic months and 9 ones where there's not that many of our summer visitors here, and it's hard to keep going. And keep your employees employed when things are a little bit slow. So the idea of the Southampton Village Partnership is, what can we do to extend the shoulder seasons so that people patronize our village restaurants and hotels and merchants, not just in the summer, but in March and April and November and October and the shoulder months. And one of the ideas we came up with was that people need to know what's going on in our village. And right now, there's no central place for them to find out what's happening at the Arts Center, what's happening at the Cultural Center, what museum's doing what stores are open, There's so much about our village and its history that is not in one place. And today we had a fantastic meeting. Amy Fraser had been doing some work looking at other areas in the country and how they address the problem. And we came up with a very, very promising ideas for putting together a website and informational resource that we think can be extremely powerful in enabling all of these shareholders and stakeholders in our village, the cultural institutions, the restaurants, the hotels, the business people, to share the word about themselves. So it hasn't happened yet. We've got to raise some money. We've got to put it together, but at least we're moving in the right direction. Speaking about business, and I hope I don't sound self-serving in this, but it's very, very important, especially at this time of year, to shop locally. There's this big company called Amazon, and it's so easy to get online and order stuff from them, and it comes the next day, but they do not support they do not support the local school. They do not support all of the local things that need supporting here. And I've talked to a number of merchants here in the village over the last month, and it's a tough year. The tariffs have made things tough. The economy has made things tough. So I hope everybody will do their best to support their local merchants. And just speaking for myself, I can't thank the residents of this village enough for all of those people who have contributed toys to us to give to worthy causes like Toys for Tots, the Heart of the Hamptons, the Shinnecock Presbyterian Church, the Southampton Village Police Benevolent Association. So many organizations, I'm sure I'm forgetting some, that we have provided gifts to make children's Christmases and holidays a little better. So with that, I'll say Happy Hanukkah to everybody, Merry Christmas to everybody, and to anybody who's celebrating a holiday that isn't included in those two, all of those people as well. Have a very peaceful and wonderful holiday season. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Stevenson, Trustee Zananti.
Thank you, Mayor. Just briefly, the traffic, the restriping of County Road 39 happened about a month ago, and for a little over 3 weeks or so, it has been in effect. It's had some hiccups, and we're not quite sure why. The chief and I met with the town superintendent of highways, and we brought along our traffic consultant and made some observations. And actually, we're having a meeting with the town supervisor and a larger group, town council members, the chief and the mayor, I think, is coming to it, and the town superintendent to see what further tweaks will make it as efficient as it was last spring when the pilot was first run. And I would also like to wish everyone a happy holiday and a very healthy and happy new year to all of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Zananti. So another reason why I'm going up to Albany, that meeting of NICOM, but it also is an opportunity to go and meet with our state senator and state assemblyman. I'm going to be accompanied by the mayor of East Hampton Village, Jerry Larson, and we are going to once again argue for the use of speed cameras on a pilot basis in our village. There are several roads that I've made very clear to the state senator when I met with him recently in Riverhead at his office that really would be helped with the use of a speed camera. And we both agreed that once the speed camera was in place, people would realize that they should not speed on that road. Whether they got a ticket or not, they would know not to speed because there would be a camera there. I did some research with NICOM and found out actually that the village of Hastings-on-Hudson actually did get approval this year and signed into law by the governor use of speed cameras in non-school zones. So I handed that legislation to both our state senator and sent it to our assemblyman and said, let's just copy this. This got approved by the Assembly and the Senate last year and signed by the governor. And if we can get that done now in 2026, it would really go a long way to helping us cut down on the speeders racing through our village. On the 7th of December, I went to the Tree of Lights that was hosted by East End Hospice at the library. It was a very moving ceremony, and it's the second year I've been asked to attend and issue some welcoming remarks, and it really is a wonderful organization that does so much for so many families, and you saw them all turn out there in memory of their loved ones. So again, I really commend the East End Hospice for all they do. On the 9th, I went to Town Hall to a meeting that they had to advocate on behalf of Love Michael and Love Michael Homes. Again, this is providing housing for autistic adults and young people, those with special needs. The town actually was able to provide them with $630,000. The supervisor was very kind and let me speak first. I also read a letter from County Executive Ed Romaine on the advocacy that Love Mike and Love Michael's Homes provides to so many people and families in this area. And I'm happy to report that at the end of the meeting, they did unanimously approve the $630,000 to that charity. And upcoming on the 13th, we have the Heart of the Hamptons Polar Bear Plunge. Especially with the temperature we've been having lately, it should be really quite vigorous this year. It's at 10 a.m., Cooper's Beach, #1 beach in the United States. And certainly they welcome everybody to sign up and can provide some donations to another very worthy cause in our community. 12/15, December 15th, actually begins Hanukkah. And I have been asked by Rabbi Konnikov on the 21st of December to have the honor of lighting the menorah at the Chamber of Commerce at 1:45 p.m. So if anyone wants to come out for that, but the menorah will be placed soon, so that for the first day, which is the 15th, and then as you know, it'll be lit every day. I will be there on the 21st. On the 18th, there will be, and Ed, you probably know this, a senior lunch at the Rogers Memorial Library. And certainly want to encourage all seniors to attend that lunch at the library. It's a great event where people can get together, enjoy the holidays, and have a nice lunch at the library. Of course, then we have Christmas and New Year's. And then on the 3rd of January, I will be, I'm invited to the Eagle Scout ceremony at 2 p.m. at the Catholic Church on Hill Street. 2 members of our community are being made Eagle Scouts. So I am going to be delighted to be there and present them with a commendation for their accomplishments. And then the next village board meeting is not until January 8th, 2026. So I know it might be hard for some of you to stay away for so long, but I hope you will all enjoy the holidays with your families and friends, and we look forward to seeing you in 2026. So thank you all very much, and good night. Actually, I think we're going to adjourn for executive session to discuss a legal matter. So thank you all very much for coming. Sage, thank you.
Do you want to make a motion?
Okay, it's 9:06. The village board is coming out of executive session where no action was taken. And I am making a motion now to close this meeting of the Village Board of Trustees. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you very much. Good night.